Don't forget the number you can send your message to 0300733719. The program is The Podium with me, Asmiba. Let's go to our first story. A release from the President's office last Thursday lifted travel restrictions placed on previous ministers under the Kuruma administration who were placed on travel ban as a result of their cases in the commissions of inquiry. Well, the lifting also is for current ministers and government functionaries, which was put on hold before the June 24th election. So the lifting has received mixed feelings from members of the public. Calling the studio is Ibrahim, who is a member of the Strategic Communications Unit of the Ministry of Information and Civic Education. You know, we are used to the MIC.
Yes.
Welcome to the program, Imran.
Glad to be here. Good afternoon.
Okay, on Thursday, it was read on national television that the president had lifted the travel ban, which was placed on former and current ministers. Let's look at the former ministers of the Kuruma administration. Many of them were placed on the travel ban as a result of the commissions of inquiry that they were attending. What did it mean for the president to lift the ban at a particular time?
Well, look, every now and then His Excellency the President has the opportunity to review things, and in his usual spirit of magnanimity, right, would always take those right decisions, right, in making sure that we continue to keep the peace and make sure we live in a peaceful society. So His Excellency the President has shown magnanimity once again, right? It doesn't mean that all of those matters before the court are not going to proceed. That is not what it means. But then people have the latitude and the liberty now without having to go through certain procedures, right, to be able to travel.
So why did it take the president a whole 5 years, his first time, to only show magnanimity now, when those who were affected, majority of former ministers, some of them said their liberties were curtailed, their freedom of movement was also not allowed as a result of that ban that was placed on them? Why did it take the president 5 years to only magnanimous now?
So, let us make a few things clear, right? Number one, I think they were going through the legal process, and therefore you don't want to be seen interfering, right, with what is supposed to be a separate arm.
But this is more of a political and a legal decision.
Those were commissions of inquiry which made certain recommendations for which people had to come to court or interact with ACC or other commissions of inquiry as stated then, and therefore at that initial point you don't want to interfere. You want to allow the process to roll itself out, and people who might be persons of interest, right, to be able for the commissions of inquiry or the courts to have access to them at any given period.
So did the government fear that the affected ministers were going to flee from the country?
Those were understandable circumstances then. And I think we're at a point now where I think we can sufficiently say that they have been interacting, those individuals who are persons of interest or have further meetings with the judiciary and the rest. So I think it's the right time. His Excellency the President has chosen this time.
But the President's decision, Imran, is not a legal one; it's a political one.
So my point is,
is it not a political decision?
When His Excellency the President takes such a decision, it is not. For those of us who interact with the president, right, from time to time, we know his mindset, we know his spirit, right, we know his level of magnanimity. He wants to bring people together. He wants to make sure that there's peace, there's stability, there's national cohesion. It is all of those things that the president is preoccupied by and with on a daily basis, and therefore, from time to time, you see him taking those postures, right, which indicates, right, at his core, right, that he believes in unity, he believes in peace, he believes in national cohesion, and therefore, in as much as people still have to interact with, whether it be the courts or anti-corruption commission, they should at least be able to have the liberty. So, my guess is, for instance, if me, Imran Silla, have something to do with the Anti-Corruption Commission or the courts, right, I would be decent enough and courteous enough to inform them and say, I have some urgent and emergency situation for which I have to leave the shores of Sierra Leone for, right? And that agreement can be met, right, with those respective institutions. And so he's not necessarily interfering, right, with the work of the judiciary, but then he's also making sure that that people at least have the freedom to be able to move around.
Is it part of the olive branches being dished out by the president as a result of the commencement of the dialogue or negotiation with the opposition? Because it has to do largely with members of the opposition party.
But then also, like you said in your intro, with those of us who are in government, don't forget that a ban was put in place leading up to the elections, for which no one was allowed to travel, and so it affects both sets of individuals or groups, if you like, and therefore His Excellency the President has.
So is this not part of all the olive branches?
Those conversations would happen, right? In terms of the dialogue, we have seen a press release from the APC stating that they're willing, amongst many things, that they're also willing to go into dialogue. I mean, and therefore...
So are these things prelude to the proper dialogue?
And therefore that would happen separately. His Excellency the President, like I have said, is always preoccupied with a certain level of magnanimity, right, I haven't seen before, right, in my entire life. And therefore he's looking to bring people together. He's looking to create a tranquil environment, a stable society, peace, national cohesion.
But this is something many people had called for during the president's first term.
Well, people have called for many things in the first term of His Excellency the President.
But this was one crucial call.
And people called for many things in the first term of President Anis Barry Nkrumah, right? But he chose his own time in the last administration to do the things he needed to do. His Excellency the President has deep thoughts.
So is that what President B also doing?
He has deep thoughts and careful consideration. And so at any given point when he takes a decision, I'm sure the timing is always right. So people may have said things in the past. His Excellency the President has chosen this time to put out that notice, which affects every single person in government in as much as it affects
what about
matters with the courts.
What about those former ministers of the APC, for example, who left Sierra Leone after the 2018 elections when their party lost power? And many of them are either in the United States or in the United Kingdom or other European countries. Some of them are afraid to come home. What does the government say about such people?
So interesting. I mean, if you do a calculation, I'm sure the vast majority of them are actually in Freetown and have been around ever since. You're only
we still have the minority. If you want to put it that way, I can name you some who are still.
I'm sure you can't do more than 10 if you attempt to name me.
But some of them are afraid to come home because they are afraid that if they were to come home today, their abode is going to be CID.
No, look, I don't think so, and that's the misgiving.
So are they free to come home?
That's the misgiving that people often have, right? When power shifts from one political party to the other, you are.
Welcome to the program, Alhaji Ibrahim Ben Kargbo.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Agenda for Peace and Ethnic Cohesion, well-loaded name. Untie it for us.
Well, let me see one thing straight away. The position taken by a good number of us who want to see this country forge ahead is very, very clear that without peace, this country simply cannot develop. But of course, for you to attain peace, you must put in place the structures that would make sure that you have peace in the country. And we have done some research and we have discovered that unlike in the past, where everybody saw himself as his brother's keeper, we have started seeing a situation whereby people take decisions on the basis of tribes. And we worry that if we continue in this vein, tribalism will eat into our own system. And then the whole business of promoting the concept of peace would have been lost. So this is why we believe that some of us with like minds should come together.
Who are these like minds?
We have the list of the names here. Should come together and begin to discuss these issues. so that we can convince our people that in days gone by, Sierra Leoneans live together. I remember the quarrel between my mother and my father when my mother insisted that I should go to Maburuka boys' school. My father said, no, my son should go to Bo to grow up with other children. My mother did not understand the reason why my father took that position. But there was a quarrel. But my grandmother came and said, but I listened to your husband. And this is why I went to Bo. I went to St. Andrew's School, where I grew up with all the boys from Mendeland, from Cornell, from etc., etc. Abbas Bundu, Samura Kapara, and others. That helped us a great deal. And we did not see any rivalry between us. We saw ourselves as brothers. And up to this time, if I go to Bo, it's like my home. Everybody likes me there. I grew up there. So I think, and some of us believe that we can get back to that kind of a situation, whereby we all will now begin to address issues of national development in terms of the cohesiveness of the state.
Why did it take you guys so long to see it? Because 5-10 years ago, Alhaji Kargbo, you are stronger, very active in politics, and you must have made some statement that one would say, wow, that was more of a political than a nationalistic statement. Not only you, but many of your colleague politicians. So why are you guys only seeing this now? Is it because you've put your boots on the shelves?
We also want to be very certain that whatever institution you create for the purpose of addressing this very important issue, such an organization should be accepted by the people. You are not a politician and then you expect you are APC and then you expect SLPP to think that you can come and decide on what is right and wrong. A good number of us were in parliament. Some of us were politicians. So we said, okay, when we retire, we will address this issue because we saw the problems themselves. So this is why most of the people who are involved in this whole thing are retired people and people who have not been in politics yet, so that the people can have confidence in those people who want to take this kind of decisions.
But I mean, would it have been better for some of these ideas to have come when some of you are very active in politics instead of being retired politicians now?
No, let me tell you one thing. When you are a politician, and if you are part of the political process, you do not have the final say all the time. So let us make it very, very clear. Whatever good intentions you have, whatever good ideas you have, don't forget, I was also advisor to the president. Sometimes the president accepts my advice. Sometimes he does not. He has other reasons. So the fact of the matter is that we think that we are not late yet. Other people will join us later to make sure that we address this very, very important issue of bringing the people of this country together.
Let's look at the composition of this body.
No,
I want to hear some of the names.
It is not exhaustive yet. It is not exhaustive, but I think this is a good beginning point. And I'm going to, since I conceived the idea, and other people agreed that it was a good idea, and they could join me, we decided that we should begin to put ourselves together, set up a small board of trustees to address these issues. But of course, the body should be acceptable. And this is one reason why I'm here to talk about it.
So what's going to be the functions of this body and the board?
Now, we address so many issues that have to do with the state. The very appointments of public officers into public offices will be an issue. Whether we like it or not, it has been a very, very contentious issue in this country. People have argued that they were dismissed from places because they were Mende or because they were Timni, etc., etc. We want to address issues of that nature. And secondly, we also want to remind ourselves from whence we came. That at one time our fathers, our uncles, our cousins from Mandela and from Timni line all lived together as one united people. It is just possible that we can go back to those days. So the committee will look at that. We bring in the paramount chiefs. What kind of rules and regulations do they take in place? The chief of Bambali district, Makeni, the chief of Bo, can they be together and exchange ideas? Don't forget, I was going to school in Bo when there was a quarrel between the Timni traders and the other people, and the many people. So the chief, Kamada Bonge, came, called everybody. He was bilingual. He spoke Timni and Mende fluently. He spoke to two parties. In less than 30 minutes, the dispute was over. A clear indication that if you are a leader, you must be acceptable. The very manner in which you talk to people, you speak to them, creates a whole lot of difference. So among the things we are going to address is to make sure that we encourage our people to come together. When I was trying to do a paper on tourism in Sierra Leone, years back, I was asking myself the question, why is it that we do not have a system whereby people born in Kairau on the weekend can travel to Cambia to go and have a look at Cambia so that they can mingle with other people from Cambia? How can people from Palakwa do not go to Kono so that they can have a look at the situation there and mingle with people, etc., etc.? But in other words, that's a short form of trying to say that we should bring a sense of cohesion, unity among our people. And I think that our people are quite willing to do that.
Okay, you're coming at it. This idea is born at a time when there is a stalemate between the ruling party and the opposition. The opposition has vowed not to go to parliament or councils until some of their demands are met. This tension, you are coming at this particular moment when this tension is rising. Well, maybe a few days from now, talks are going to start, and we hope those talks are going to come out with something positive. So, what's going to be your role now in brokering? What should I say, peace or helping in the negotiation?
No, I do not want to speak on behalf of the APC at this point. In the first place, I am not a member of the executive anymore, and secondly, I do not have authority to speak on their behalf. So whatever I say is born out of IB Kargbo.
Yeah.
So to me, it's important that we take all of these things into consideration as part and parcel of our efforts to correct these irregularities. Before the elections, I convened a press conference at a Beauty Money conference. I was here to explain it because I saw problems brewing, and I thought that something should be done to correct it. And what we did at that press conference to appeal to all the institutions in charge of conducting the elections to be very wary and cautious of how these elections are conducted. Because you saw the tension, everybody thought he was going to win an election, the other person thought he was going to win an election. And I saw this tension brewing. I came here and I explained to you people. And I also explained to the media at Winter Wine Hotel that all of us should work together as one united people to ensure that no problems explode out of that elections, because you saw it coming. Now we have this problem. And I've said, whether we like it or not, we cannot paper it. It's a crisis. This is the very first time I've been in politics for a long time. I've seen so many leaders, from Abat Magai to Shaka Stevens to this and that. This is the very first time we are having a parliament in which people who actually won elections are saying they are not going to that parliament. It's a crisis. And if you want to make legislation, you have second thoughts. I want to pass this law. But with the absence of these people, is it going to be accepted, etc., etc.? But the fact of the matter is that we should run away from that. And I keep on reminding people that I was one of the people who debated the 1991 Constitution. We were the ones, including Abbas Bondo, who is in Parliament and Speaker, who were the ones who provided leadership. At the time, I was the Secretary General of the Backbench Association. In those days, we had a backbench. And we were running away from the multi-party system. The whole effort at that time, put together by Peter Tucker, Abdullah Conte, and others, and even J.S. Momo, was to run away from the one-party system. Because Sierra Leone was earning for itself a very bad name internationally. We went to conferences. For example, I went to a conference in Kuala Lumpur to represent Parliament here. The fellows did not accept me. They said, well, you people cannot be practicing democracy. You have only one party in Parliament. So we all thought that it was an embarrassment. So let us walk away from it. And we succeeded in coming up with the Constitution 1991. Peter Tucker worked assiduously. Abdullah Conte worked assiduously. And we ended up having that Constitution. Now, for us to even imagine that there is a likelihood that we can revert again to those bad old days with just one party in Parliament, it's unacceptable. And this is why we think that we should begin to address these issues. I'm talking about ethnic consideration here. You should also not forget that the politics in Sierra Leone is also ethnic-based, unfortunately. Whether you like it or not. I stood in Parliament some time ago, and I said, gentlemen, Mr. Speaker, a parliament in which the whole one half is from one part of the country, and the other half is from another part of the country, does not portend development. Everybody laughs, everybody smiles, but that is the case. All the MPs from Kailau and from Bo, from Kenema, etc., Moemba, come from one party. Those from Makedi, from Agboroka, from this and that, come from another party. Is this the way to run a state?
And you guys benefited from that?
No, we benefited because we tried. We thought we should intervene. We should be part of the system to change it from within. That's my argument. Nobody will ask me any question why I took part. I'm a Sierra Leonean. I took part and I did what I could do to address the issues. But the important thing is, coming back to your question, what this committee will do is to make sure that we address these issues that are now looming. And it's important that we also took into consideration people who will be acceptable. If I tell John Benjamin, for example, who is a member of this committee, to go and talk to his people in Shebema, people should listen to him. Because by our own assessment, he is a highly respected person in his own place. If I tell Ibrahim Sorry to go to Binti or to Podloko to talk to his people, people should listen to him. So this is how we have looked at this whole matter.
Or if Ivy Kargbo is asked to go to
Bombali or to Tonkolili, believe me, they will listen to me. Or even Podloko also. Even Podloko himself. So this is it. So we think that this country should not revert to a one-party system. It should not revert to a situation whereby Timnis and Mendes should look at each other as if they were enemies. They are not. They are friends. If I went to school in Bo, we used to make a joke out of it all. We used to say 10 Timnis make one Mende. And we will say 5 Mendes make one Timni. This kind of way. You don't do it now. Now you attempt it, it can be so totally misunderstood. Right? We grew up together. You are talking about even the president. The president, Julius Maada, grew up with my own younger brother. They are friends. Brahma, the late Brahma. And they were friends. They were parties like this. I used to see them together. I keep on telling my other brothers, I say if Brahma did not die, possibly this was his time. But he died. But this is just to give an example, the possibility of us working together without looking at the tribal element.
Alaji, before we go for break, Alaji Ivy Kargbo, Honorable, many all these fantastic ideas that you guys, including John Benjamin and others have, all these things can be thrown out of the window once elections are up again. The politicians would, once they see the camera, once they see the microphone, hey, they want to make the headlines. They can make some fiery statements that you and I wonder whether they are Sierra Leoneans.
Yes, I know.
Yeah.
That is politics. But let me tell you one thing. I spoke to one of my friends a few days ago who made what you call a fiery statement. And I had actually gone to State House on my own private business, and I saw him there. And I said, your statement was very fiery. And he said, oh, that was political talk. But sometimes political talk can also be misunderstood. So if you're talking to the public, you have to be very, very cautious. But coming back to your question, once we put ourselves together, once we look at ourselves as Sierra Leoneans and not Ivy Kargbo from Bombali or John Benjamin from Shebema or Ibrahim Sorry from Podloko or Dibi Chambayo from Koron and all of these things, right? We should be able to forge ahead. To us, it's important.
Okay. Let me come to you again. Ima, what about those who are still, whose cases are in the appeals court? And would they have the liberty to travel out of the country? Are their passports still with either the Attorney General's office or the courts?
So, by the presidential pronouncement contained in the press release is what it is. Meaning everybody has the liberty and the latitude to travel. So, like I said, giving myself as an example, if I have a matter ordinarily before the courts, for which there's a court date and for some reason I would not be able to make myself available on that court date, it is now my responsibility and the responsibility of my lawyer to contact the judge and let them know in advance that because of X, Y, and Z reasons, I will not be around, and we can reschedule another court date. So whether it's in the appeals courts or in the Court of Appeals, I mean, it's all on the same thing, I'm just making a point, or magistrate court or high court, you have an opportunity, you can reschedule. So the press release says what it says, meaning everybody has the latitude and the liberty now to travel.
I mean, no sooner the release was issued than I saw a tweet from one of the affected persons, former ACC Commissioner Adi Macaulay. He tweeted that instead of commending the president, he said his rights and his colleagues were violated. He said for 3 to 4, 5 years, their rights were trampled upon, they were stopped from traveling. So he is looking at it from a different perspective. And there are many like the Adi Macaulay's who are looking at it that way.
So
how would you convince them?
Look, each and every state, I mean, each and every country has its own laws, rules, and regulations. And I'm aware that in other countries as well, people are prevented from traveling for legal reasons and lawful reasons, right? And for which there are restrictions on them. It is not dissimilar, right, to Sierra Leone. We have our own laws, rules, and regulations, and therefore, at that material point in time, there were restrictions. His Excellency the President has shown magnanimity. I mean,
but in Sierra Leone, most times those decisions are led by political thinking. I will give an example. I remember when the APC just came to power in 2018, then Vice President Samuel Samsumana.
In 2007, you mean?
In 2007, sorry. And then Vice President Samsumana also issued a memo that all former ministers did it clear. So let's say they also borrowed a little from what the APC did in 2007.
Well, I was.
So it keeps repeating.
I mean, I wasn't around in 2007, so I
was around.
I didn't see that press release, and I haven't seen any tweet from Adi Macaulay. But look, let us come back to what the central issue is. That the legal and lawful reasons for which and why people were restricted or not allowed to travel. And His Excellency the President, in his judgment and in his wisdom, feels that everyone should have the latitude and the liberty without necessarily interfering with the judiciary and the work, right, of what the judiciary is doing. So those who have matters before the court definitely, I mean, would continue to engage and interact with them. That by no means, right, should be interpreted now to mean that there are restrictions on them to travel. Look, again, it is for also cabinet ministers who were stopped from traveling prior to the elections. No one was allowed to travel, yeah? Everything, even for me.
But that one was based more on economic considerations. When you look at the economy, then the government wanted to scale down overseas traveling and also to ensure that resources were managed. So
I don't think so. Ordinarily, every travel has a clearance from State House, right? For ministers, cabinet ministers, heads of departments and agencies or parastatals, yeah? As long as you're appointed by government and there's a need for you to travel, there's clearance from State House. So that answers the supposition that it was for economic reasons. Look, leading up to an election, you don't have a case to make necessarily for the state, except for one or two individuals. It might be the foreign affairs minister or someone around that sort of pedigree. You can still have your travels, and because there are important statutory obligations by the state, right, for which you have to attend. Ordinarily, you just have to come back and work from home, do the work that you're meant to be doing, and wait for the outcome of the election. So, and that is what has happened. His Excellency the President chose deliberately to make sure that no one was allowed to travel. I had a trip, 2 trips, as a matter of fact. I cancelled those trips after that presidential announcement because I knew, right, that it wasn't going to benefit the state, neither my ministry in any way, shape, or form. And so those 2 trips had to be cancelled. The ban has been lifted. We all have the freedom and the latitude. It shows magnanimity. And let me just piggyback on a few things that Honorable Ibrahim Kargbo has said. I mean, first of all, he knows he's my cutter. I respect him a great deal. I know his sons. We went to St. Edward's together at the same time, so I see him as a father figure. The sort of things he's talking about now, I'm sure His Excellency the President will be pleased about it. For me, it feels like a council of elders of the states the Republic of Sierra Leone, who've come together. Honorable Kargbo, John Benjamin, and all those, they've now come together to say, and there has to be, someone should be able to speak from the center, with no political persuasions whatsoever. They finished their political career. They are now statesmen in their own right, recognized and respected by the state, and I'm sure by government and His Excellency the President, to come together and play their part in peace, in national cohesion, in stability.
But sometimes you the day-to-day active politicians derail their efforts. When elections, like I said, when elections are up, when you see the microphone and you're in front of the camera, you make some very fearful statements that even if they were to be you were to be shown that statement 2 or 3 days later, you say, "Wow, did I really say this?"
So, I mean, it's the Americans have a beautiful way of putting it. As long as it gets to elections, they call it the silly season. What is said and done during that period, you can be forgiven. Because it's about political parties maybe trying to win an election, making sure if you feel so enthused and passionate, right, about your presidential candidate and his views, and making sure that he wins that election. I did all I could, and every one of us in our party did all we could for His Excellency the President. He did the most. He led by example from the front, right, to make sure that the elections were called for him. And look, that is done and dusted. We have to move on as a society. We've been there before since 1996. He talked about the 1991 Constitution. We ushered in multi-party politics into this country. Elections are elections. Once they're over and done with, you come back to the business of development.
Okay.
Right? It's about Sierra Leone. It's about the country. It's about what we can do, right, for the next generation, making sure that we live a better society for them.
Thank you. And Honorable Kargbo, a composition like this does not have any statutory power. So my concern is, and I'm sure that will be the concern of many Sierra Leoneans watching, how much leverage, how much influence would you have on certain decisions that are made either in Parliament or at State House or what have you, decisions that will have far-reaching effects?
No, let me say one thing. Don't forget that we put this constitution together. We also know the constitution gives citizens authority and power to be part of the process of development in this country. And therefore, I can always quote so many other parts of the constitution that would allow me to be part of the process. But let us state one thing. Our willingness, the honesty which we are going to demonstrate will bring a good number of people over to our side. But the moment the public suspects that we are not honest about what we're doing, of course, that undermines the whole process itself. So to come to your question, I'm sure that the public will want us to operate in this manner. They will cooperate with us because everybody's tired. Everybody's tired because this talk about peace, no deal at the country, fed deal at the country, this and that, we don't want to hear about it anymore. We want to be very certain that we gradually walk towards a situation whereby all Sierra Leoneans will see themselves as the same people. I remember when I was advisor to the president, there was a case here about a treason trial, not so? Some soldiers were arrested. They said they wanted to overthrow Ernest Kuroma. We looked at the matter and we advised. We said, no, this cannot work. This thing will just wreck the country apart. Look at the people arrested. They are mostly from one part of the country. The president said, is that true? I said, yes. So look at it. The president called the Attorney General, Frank Kargbo. He said, we are not going to continue this matter. Right? Sometimes you take these decisions because you want to make sure that you save the state. And this is the reason why we are coming in at this time. A good number of people, I just said that the APC, I'm not speaking on their behalf now, but when time comes, they too will understand one basic thing, that in the end, you do not overstate your case, right? You don't overstate your case. If you overstate your case, you run into difficulties. I have been part of this whole process. We wrote some of the most dastardly articles against Shaka Stevens. Shaka Stevens called us one day and he said, AB. He said, AB. He used to call me AB. Even though I corrected him 20 times, he called me AB. He said, do you know what you wrote today? I wrote an article called Shaka Stevens' Countrymen. And I said, yes, sir. He said, all I advise you to do not to set impossible standards for other people. One day you'll get there. And you'll discover that you are setting impossible standards for other people. I said, thank you, sir. Then I left. Later in life, I became minister. The public expected me to do extraordinary things. I said, oh, this was what Sheikh Stevens was talking about. Setting up impossible standards for other people. But like I said, now we have this crisis in this country. We want to address it. The important thing is that the leader of the APC, Samura Kamara, has accepted the fact that we need to sit down and talk. The leader of the SLPP, President Bio, he also thinks that we should sit down and talk. The quality of the discussion will likely determine how this country will forge ahead.
Are you guys going to be part of the talks?
No, I don't want to be part of it because this.
Are you guys not asking for a seat on the table?
No, we are not asking for a seat. We are not. We are not. We just want.
With all this experience and respect that you guys command in this society, is it not worthwhile for a seat to be given to you guys on this?
No, if anybody thinks that he wants us to be part of the process, we can sit down and help. Otherwise, I'm not going to push myself into it. Don't forget, this is IB Kargbo. I've served this country many, many times in many capacities, from school teacher to everything in this country. So I would not want to beg for recognition. I've been recognized. Pakaba give me the Rokel, the order of the Rokel. And so I will not forget that. I'm a highly respected person in society. So if there are talks and we are invited, we'll go there and talk.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, when during the days of President Kaba, you are a very close friend of former President Kaba, and did President Kaba know that you were an APC sympathizer, but though you are an active journalist, but I mean, you had a good relationship with him, and also you also had a good relationship with Septimus Kaikai now later, and when you became information minister, you influenced his appointment to serve as the SLBC board chair.
Yes, of course. You know,
those are interesting scenarios.
Pakaba was a family friend. When he went to Makeni, I was a young boy, in primary school, in fact. Eke Ture, the late Eke Ture, the fact were not this Dr. Ture. They all used to go to the house. A new arrival in Makeni at the time, a young man. My sister used to cook, put it on the head of my younger brother to take to Pakaba. So we became friends. In the evening, they would go to our shop, sit there, chat with the old man. So we became friends. And when he came back, his offices were there in Parliament when he was appointed chairman of the NPRC. He invited me and he said, I have been reading your articles. I'm impressed. He said, but I have a problem about this coffee deal, so-called coffee deal. I said, yeah, you are not alone because your opponent, Kaifa Smart, has a similar problem. His problem is that they think that his wife, who's an American, will come and abolish the Bondo of society. So these are all situations that were hitting both of them. So I wrote articles and I spoke to people. And Kaba has always been my friend, and he consults. That's the difference between Kaba and many other presidents. Kaba was going to the United Nations. He said, I must take somebody from the opposition and from the media. And from Frabi College, we all went to J.D. Ali, myself, we all went together. We went to Brussels. He said, gentlemen, this is my speech. I will look at it if there's any error. I looked at the speech. There was no error, except one comma, which we corrected. And we continued. We flew to New York. And he presented his speech. After the speech, we came back to the hotel. And he said, gentlemen, you are on your own. You can spend your holiday here now if you want to spend your holiday, because I'm going back to Freetown. He said, I hear that your children are here. You want to go and see them? I said, yes, I'm going to Washington to see them. I said, look, I'll help with some money. So this is the kind of relationship we had. So one day I sat in my house and he said, oh, this is just an example of how we can have cohesion in this country. He called me. He said, I said, yes, sir. Mami Fatmata, we don't go Mecca? I said, no, sir. He said, well, go make it prepare. Where do you go?
Your mother?
Yes, my mother. So I said, my brother, I brought him mother, I arranged. The following day, he said, come with me. I need company to Mecca. Because I became allergic. So we all, my mother and myself went to Mecca the same day. So through the efforts of President Kaba, President Kaba will always stand in history as the man who attempted to bring this country together. And to us, it was very, very important. So
So are you guys going to speak truth to power and truth to opposition?
well, my background is that is what we've been doing years back. I just told you that I wrote some of the most lethal articles which Shaka Stevens asked me to withdraw, which I did not withdraw. I remember the case of Fodekande. I was in London. Again, it was this Abbas Bundu who helped me to go to that conference. He was at the Commonwealth Secretariat. I was addressing a conference of small countries and the possibilities of agricultural development. And I heard that Fodekande had been arrested. I came back and I confronted Shaka Stevens. I went to his house at Skerman Road and he said, AB, what's wrong with you? I said, please, sir, this is unfair. Now, Fodekande was my schoolmate. So he said, well, Fodekande, what you do bad? Not so. I said, well, I don't get the facts. He said, well, no can vex for nothing. So the following day, they called me at State House. He said, well, I don't look at the whole matter. In fact, Sergeant don't just the vex for nothing. Sierra Leone journalist, if he writes against Liberia, not to be business handy, in fact, a foolish man self. He said, okay, so they called press conference. You know, Shaka Stevens had a way of doing things. Whenever I came from a conference or a visit, he would call a press conference to explain what he has been doing. He said, okay, the press conference will take place tomorrow. I will make S.I. Kuruma to chair it. Then I will ask him to call you to make the vote of thanks. Then when you make the vote of thanks, ask for the release of Fodekande. I said, yes, sir. So we went there and we went after his speeches and that. He said, any questions? Rod McJohnson asked, this fellow asked, Frambuso asked, everybody asked the few to answer. And he said, SI, vote of thanks. So SI don't tell me already. He has told me already. He has monitored me. He said, IB, vote of thanks. So I pleaded. I said, please, our friend is at Patenba Road. He's not well, etc., etc. So SI, they're not released that way they hate. I said, no, sir. He said, go and release the man. So this was how we related in those days. So talking of speaking to power, sometimes we also tell people the truth.
Okay.
Even to bring about the multi-party democracy in this country, we have to speak a lot of truths. To be very frank, we should be honest with Momo. When we were writing our newspaper at 40 Rodin Street, Momo would come at night. Then he was a soldier. He would come and say, gentlemen, don't forget we should go back to democracy. I say, if Pashaka see the kind of press, he go vex by you, say, no, we're not fit for that. But the fact of the matter is, when people are in authority, they should also listen to other people. There's a reason why presidents have advisors. And you asked me the question the other day whether the president do listen to advisors.
Yeah. When I was doing that,
well, in my case, they listen to me. To me, it's important that they listen because I take, for example, in the case of Ernest Kuruma, I saw some people going to him to give money for Ebola, this and that. I told him, I said, please, sir, let us go for an advisory session. Thursday was our advisory session, every Thursday. The three of us, we were only three advisors in those days. Monty Jones, Ambassador Kamara, myself. We had a list of questions. After observing all what's happening in the country, we ask questions. We say, do this, do this, do this, do this. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. He said, okay, gentlemen, I will not accept this. I will accept this. I will not accept this. I accept this. So that was how we operated. Sometimes when you do things like this, for example, if we start to operate very soon, we want to try. If during the launching ceremony, we can bring Ernest Kuruma, Sansbana, Madabio, his own vice president, etc., and all of these people from various parts of the country, we beat them together, bring some of the chiefs together, so that we begin to hammer home the point, explaining the reason why all of us should begin to see ourselves as one united people. So it is important that we do so.
Okay. Wow. I see Imran nodding his head. Well, it's podium. That's Alhaji Honorable Ibrahim Ben Kargbo giving us some important historic analysis. Imran, as we are round up now. We understand the talks with the opposition party will start in earnest. Who is going to represent the government?
Well, I'm going to disappoint you and the public. It is something I don't want to comment on.
A team has already been selected.
What I'm going to say is
a team has been selected, right?
What I'm going to say is that there is enough goodwill on our side, and I suspect from the APC, His Excellency the President has always indicated that he's committed to peace, national cohesion, and stability, and therefore that's the spirit from us. Going into those conversations, again, ultimately, it's about Sierra Leone. It's about how we can hold the country together. It's about how we can bring peace. Whatever those issues are, they are definitely not going to be an albatross around our neck for the foreseeable future. It is definitely going to be resolved. There's nothing that comes up that doesn't present itself as a challenge for which there are no solutions to. There's definitely going to be solutions. There's going to be a way forward. We're determined. His Excellency the President is determined to move forward on this, making sure that we all come out of it with a better understanding.
Are you aware of some of the demands already made by the opposition?
Again, let us allow the conversations to start.
Now, I want to ask you: are you aware of some of the
whatever those demands are? There's going to be a table. There's going to be mediators. As long as there's willingness, there is a way. And where there is a way, there is a will. Can I just finally say, I mean, as I continue this thing called politics in life, and I sit here and cede the floor to my own quarter, and hear the things I already say, full of history, context, politics. Some of us just, you hope and pray for two things. One, that God gives you grace and life to get to his age and be able to tell similar stories relevant to our own times.
So when Asimba interviewed me on podium.
Yes, exactly. and I was sat next to the Honorable Kargbo.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, Alhaji Kargbo, as we know, what's going to be this institution's first priority?
Now, first of all, we're going to have a luncheon ceremony.
Okay.
And we will try our very best to bring on board as many people as possible, people who have a final say in decision making. To us, it's important that we do it that way because it will be necessary for us to begin to address those very important issues. For example, a basic thing like employment is an issue in this country. People just believe that we're not going to work. But we want to bring people on board who will convince the young people, who will convince the Sierra Leoneans that this is not the reason why you are not employed. There are other factors as well. But at the same time, we also want to give them assurances that modalities will be put in place to make sure that these issues are addressed, for example, employment. And this is why we also need the cooperation of people in government because they have the authority to decide what to do and what not to do. Again, like I said, we are not going to utilize propaganda. Propaganda has destroyed Sierra Leone. Too many people come with statements that are not factual. They just want to make a political point. But that is not what it should be. I remember some of our people at State House, when I was there, came up with a story in social media that the ambassador to the Mr. Kaikai, who was in Liberia, was planning to come and overthrow an Escroba. And they carried it. I read it, I was in bed and I got this information. This is total lies. But even though the fellows think that they are supporting the government of the day, that is not correct, it's wrong. So I came here. I told Van Kassel, I said, interview me first. And Van Kassel interviewed me. And I told her, I said, whatever has been written by these fellows at State House is total lies. And we cannot accept it. Mr. Kaikai is the president's friend. We saw him in Liberia a few days ago. He was with us. How can he now come the following day to come and overthrow anybody here?
Alhaji, in just a few seconds, what should the current crop of politicians, the Ibrahim and the other, what should they learn from you? From your own generation?
A lot, everything.
Well, except that just
two things that they should two things they should learn. The way you guys practice your politics.
No, relates with the public well.
Humility.
And then also be very, very certain that you do not use politics as a forum for enmity.
Yeah.
Wow.
Good point.
I told people, Abbas went to school with me, so how can I be his enemy now? we are still friends. So to us, it's important that we take all of these things into consideration.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Honorable Ibrahim Ben Kargbo. We shall be inviting you as and when necessary to talk more on this newly created institution called Agenda for Peace and Ethnic Cohesion. Well, that's how we say goodbye. Thanks to my two guests, Alhaji Ibrahim Ben Kargbo and Imran Sila. Well, on behalf of all of us and my producer, Salma Tabai, have been your host, Asmi Bat. We'll join you again tomorrow. God bless you. Goodbye.